Willard Wildcats. Happy Tuesday, May 25th. Happy birthday to Alora E. Happy birthday to Stacy S. and Tyra S. We hope you have wonderful birthdays on this Tuesday. Wildcats, today we're going to read a book called The Three Little Javelinas. It is written by Susan Lowell and illustrated by Jim Harris. And I want you to think about what book it reminds you of. This idea of borrowing text, borrowing stories to create a new story is an idea that you can use when you're being creative and when you're writing. Once upon a time, way out in the desert, there were three little javelinas. They're wild and hairy, southwestern cousins of pigs. Their heads were hairy, their backs were hairy, and their bony legs, all the way down to their hard little hooves, were all very hairy. But their snouts were soft and pink. One day, the three little javelinas trotted away to seek their fortunes. In this hot, dry land, the sky was almost always blue. Steep purple mountains looked down on the desert where the cactus forest grew. Soon, the little javelinas came to a spot where the path divided and each one went a different way. The first little javelina wandered lazily along. He didn't see a dust storm whirling across the desert until it caught him. The whirlwind blew away and left the first little javelina sitting in a heap of tumbleweeds. Brushing himself off, he said, "I'll build a house with them." And in no time at all, he did. Is this reminding you of another story? Can you guys hear Max? He's playing in the same room with me. Then along came a coyote. He ran through the desert so quick and so quietly that he was almost invisible. In fact, this was one of Coyote's many magical tricks. He laughed when he saw the tumbleweed house and smelled the javelina inside. A tender, juicy piggy, he thought. Coyote was tired of eating mice and rabbits. He called out sweetly, little pig, let me come in." "Not by the hair on my chinny chin chin," shouted the first javelina, who had a lot of hair on his chinny chin chin. "Then I'll huff and I'll puff," you guys could say it with me, "and I'll blow your house in," said the coyote. And he huffed and he puffed and he blew the tumbleweed house away. But in all the hullabaloo, the first little javelina escaped, and he went looking for his brother and sister. Coyote, who was very sneaky, tiptoed along behind. The second little javelina walked for miles along the giant cactus plants called saguaros. They held their ripe red fruit high in the sky, but they made almost no shade, and the little javelina grew hot. Then he came upon the native woman who was gathering sticks from dried up cactus. She planned to use these long sticks called saguaro ribs to knock down the sweet cactus fruit. The second little javelina said, "Please, may I have some sticks to build a house?" "Oh," she said, which means yes in her language. When he was finished building his house, he lay down in the shade. Then his brother arrived, panting from the heat, and the second little javelina moved over and made a place for him. Pretty soon, Coyote found saguaro rib house. He used his magic to make his voice sound just like other javelinas. Little pig, let me come in," he called. But the little javelinas were suspicious. The second one cried, "No, not by the hair on my chinny chin chin." "Bah," thought Coyote, "I'm not going to eat your hair." Then Coyote smiled, showing all of his sharp teeth. "And I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in." So he huffed and he puffed, and all the swallow ribs came tumbling down. But the two little javelinas escaped into the desert, still not discouraged. Coyote followed. Sometimes his magic did fail, but then he usually came up with another trick. The third little javelina trotted through the beautiful palo verde trees, the little green trunks and the yellow flowers. She saw a snake sliding by, smooth as oil. A hawk floated around and around above her. Then she came to a place where a man was making adobe, bricks from mud and straw. The bricks lay on the ground, baking in the hot sun. The third little javelina thought for a moment and said, "May I please have a few adobes to build a house?" "Sí," answered the man, which means yes in Spanish, the brickmaker's language. How do you think the bricks are going to work? So the third javelina built herself a solid little adobe house, cool in summer and warm in winter. When her brothers found her, she welcomed them in and locked the door behind them. Coyote followed their trail. What do you think is going to happen next? What story is this sounding like to you? Are you thinking of this? It has a different twist, though. Can you take a familiar story that you love and rewrite it with a different twist? Little pig, let me come in," he called. The three little javelinas looked out the window. This time, Coyote pretended to be very old and weak, with no teeth and a sore paw, but they were not fooled. "No, not by the hair on my chinny chin chin," called back the third little javelina. "Then I'll puff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in," said Coyote. He grinned, thinking of the wild pig dinner to come. "Just try it," shouted the third javelina. So Coyote huffed and puffed, but the adobe bricks did not budge. Again, Coyote tried. "I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in." The three little javelinas covered their hairy ears, but nothing happened. The javelinas peeked out the window. Max, are you helping us with the sound effects? The tip of Coyote's raggedy tail whisked right past their noses. He was climbing upon the tin roof. Next, Coyote used his magic to make himself very skinny. "The stone pipe," gasped the third little javelina. Quickly, she lighted a fire inside her wood stove. "What a feast it will be," Coyote said to himself. He squeezed into the stovepipe. "I think I'll eat them with red-hot chili sauce." Whoosh, sizzle. Who's gonna sizzle there? The next three little javelinas heard an amazing noise. It was not a bark. It was not a cackle. It was not a howl. It was a scream. It was all of those sounds together. Yip, 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 yahoo! Ran away in a puff of smoke shaped like Coyote. The three little javelinas lived happily ever after in the adobe house. And if you ever hear Coyote's voice way out in the desert at night, well, you know what he's remembering. I hope that you enjoyed today's story, The Three Little Javelinas. Wildcats, remember, we are safe, respectful, and responsible. Have a wonderful day.